The morning was still. A soft gray light crept over a two-lane highway, cutting through the edge of farmland and pine trees. There were no cars, no voices, just the gentle sound of birds waking up with the sun. For a moment, the world seemed untouched. Then came the sirens. Out of nowhere, red and blue lights lit up the road behind a sleek black Mercedes. The car eased to the side, tires crunching over gravel. The driver opened the door and stepped out with calm precision. He was a tall black man in his early 50s, wearing a fitted charcoal suit and a silver tie. His shoes were polished, his shirt pressed. His movements were slow and deliberate, his hands raised before he even turned around. From a patrol cruiser behind him stepped a white officer about mid-40s. His name tag read T. Grady. His face looked worn, unshaved, sunken eyes, and a tension in his jaw that suggested a man on edge. He said nothing as he approached. He didn't greet the man, didn't ask for license or registration. He raised one arm and pointed directly at the back of the car. "Pop the trunk." The driver, still facing forward with his hands in the air, tilted his head slightly. His voice was calm. "Is there a reason for this stop, officer?" Grady's voice was clipped and sharp. "Pop the trunk." There was a pause. Then the man lowered his arm slowly and walked to the driver's side. He pressed a button. The trunk unlatched with a quiet click. Grady pushed past him, lifted the trunk lid, and froze. Inside sat a dark leather briefcase. Grady unlatched it. He stared. Bundles of $100 bills. Tightly packed, perfectly aligned, fresh from a bank. Grady's lips curled into something between a smirk and a sneer. He gave a small nod, almost to himself. "That's enough for a 5 to 10, he said under his breath. The man didn't move, didn't protest. He just looked at Grady, eyes steady and unmoved. There was no fear on his face, only a quiet disappointment. Then he spoke. "You just made the worst mistake of your career." Tom Grady's alarm clock buzzed at 5 a.m., but he'd already been awake for hours. He lay on the worn mattress, eyes fixed on a water stain spreading across the ceiling. His one-bedroom apartment smelled faintly of old pizza and cheaper whiskey. Outside, the city was just beginning to stir, but inside his world, everything was stagnant. 17 years on the force had left their mark. His knuckles were scarred from past arrests. His back ached from old scuffles, and the badge no longer felt like a shield, more like a weight. His marriage had dissolved 5 years ago. His daughter stopped calling 2 years after that. Now, all he had left was a badge, a service pistol, and an avalanche of debt. The calls from the bookies weren't just annoying anymore. They were threats. Tom owed $85,000. He'd chased one last big win to try to fix it all. A bad hand, a few bad nights, and suddenly he was in too deep. That morning, the call came in from Frankie, the one who always smiled when he said, "It's just business, Tommy." This time, Frankie didn't smile. "You got 30 days. Then I start collecting from your kneecaps." That night, Tom sat hunched at a bar down the block from his apartment. The place smelled like sour beer and regret. The TV above the bar played a local news segment. Closed captioning flickered as a handsome black man stood beside the state governor. Financial consultant Malik Turner to meet governor on state economic plan. Tom looked up. Sharp suit. Perfect smile. Voice like velvet. Malik Turner. He remembered hearing the name before. Always attached to something positive. Always clean. Tom scoffed. "That guy probably launders more money than I'll ever see in my life." But his eyes didn't leave the screen. Malik was shaking hands with officials, standing tall with a confidence Tom hadn't felt in years. Something twisted inside him, envy maybe, or resentment. Maybe both. And then an idea. A way out. Not a good one, but a way. He leaned back, his eyes still locked on the screen. "Let's see how clean you really are."
Malik Turner's mornings started before sunrise. By 6 a.m., he was already at the gym. By 8, he was on the 26th floor of his downtown office, Turner and Associates, etched in bronze above the glass door. His world was full of numbers, spreadsheets, and potential. potential to build, potential to uplift. He didn't come from this life. Born on the south side of Chicago, he was raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs and still found time to volunteer at church. He earned scholarships, worked during college, and built his firm from scratch with nothing but a laptop and ambition. He hadn't taken a vacation in 5 years. Malik had helped over 40 black-owned businesses secure funding, navigate regulation, and scale in markets that were never built for them. He didn't advertise his work. He let results speak. But the governor noticed.
Now, Malik sat in rooms where policy was shaped, not because he chased influence, but because he understood money. And in America, if you understand money, you get a seat at the table. Still, he never forgot how the world saw him. No matter the suit, no matter the resume. Every time he got into his car, he checked his mirrors twice. Every time he walked into a new building, he carried extra copies of his credentials, just in case. Every word he spoke in public was weighed, measured, and filtered through the awareness that one wrong sentence could cost him everything. He didn't have the luxury of being angry in public. He had to be right and calm, even when it hurt. That night, he finished reviewing proposals for a housing development in East St. Louis. It was a big deal, new jobs, new homes, a shot at real stability for a community that rarely got it. As he left the office, he didn't notice the car idling across the street. Inside, Tom Grady sat low in the driver's seat, watching. 2 men, 2 lives, one built on desperation, one built on discipline, but both walking a path that would soon collide, and only one would walk away intact. It starts with a call to narcotics. Tom Grady doesn't give his name, just leaves a message on a burner. Says he saw a man named Malik Turner, real sharp dresser, real smooth talker, hanging around a known drug house on the east side. Says he saw him exchanging envelopes with a guy who's been picked up before on possession charges. Says it might be worth looking into. Nothing comes of it at first. So Grady keeps pushing. He starts following Malik, subtle at first, a few blocks behind, a camera with a zoom lens tucked in his glove box. He takes pictures, Malik at restaurants, in office lobbies, standing on street corners. Most of the time, he's talking with clients, entrepreneurs, activists, people working on housing projects. But some of them have records. Old ones. Nothing violent. Mostly charges from another life, long behind them. Grady doesn't care. He compiles the photos into a folder. Attaches a fabricated summary. Turner has been observed meeting repeatedly with individuals tied to known narcotics activity. Possible laundering operation through nonprofit fronts. He hands it to a fellow officer, someone he knows from the academy days. The officer schemes the report. Isn't this guy some kind of advisor to the governor? Grady doesn't flinch. Politicians get dirty too. The officer shrugs. Doesn't press. It's enough. Now, Grady just needs a moment. One he can control. He finds it on a Thursday evening. He's been tracking Malik's calendar through public records. Found out about a real estate deal, a down payment scheduled that week. $100,000. All above board. Documented. Withdrawn from a commercial account at 5:23 p.m. Grady's sitting outside the bank in his cruiser when Malik walks out with the briefcase. He waits. At 7:17 p.m., Malik's driving west, headed toward a dinner meeting with a developer. Rural stretch of road. No lights. No witnesses. Grady hits the sirens. Malik pulls over without hesitation. He steps out calmly. Hands up. No resistance. Grady doesn't ask for license or registration. Doesn't explain the stop. Just points. Pop the trunk. Malik hesitates. Is there a reason for this stop? Grady's voice hardens. Pop the trunk. When Malik doesn't move fast enough, Grady does it himself. Finds the briefcase. Flips it open. Neatly stacked bundles of $100 bills. Bank banded. Unmarked. Grady smiles like a man catching a break. That's enough for a 5 to 10. Malik doesn't answer. Just watches him. Like he's memorizing something. Grady cuffs him. Reads him rights he doesn't believe in. Calls it in like he just cracked a case of the year. The next morning, the headlines scream. Governor's economic advisor busted in massive laundering sting. The mugshot is grainy, taken under fluorescent lights, posted across every local news site by sunrise. Social media churns. Commenters make assumptions. Pundits speculate. Within hours, Malik's office phone stops ringing. By noon, 3 of his biggest clients have severed ties. His staff are shell-shocked, trying to field press calls and legal threats they aren't trained to handle. The nonprofit board he chairs puts him on leave by evening. The governor's office issues a single line. We are aware of the situation and gathering facts. No one calls him. Not once. 10 years of work. Reputation. Progress. Gone in a breath. The holding cell smells like bleach and sweat. Malik sits on a metal bench, head against the wall, eyes closed. His attorney hasn't arrived yet, but he's not thinking about lawyers. He's thinking about the report. They let him see it briefly, protocol before arraignment. It says the officer recovered $92,000 in suspected drug proceeds. Malik blinks, reads it again. 92, not 100. He counted the money himself, for hours before the arrest, at the bank, with the teller, with the manager who handed him the briefcase. $100,000, not 92. Where did the 8,000 go? He closes his eyes, breathes in slowly. It's not a mistake. It's a message. Someone thinks he can be broken, but that missing money, that's the crack in the wall. The place where light starts to get in. And Malik Turner is no stranger to the dark. Malik Turner doesn't scream. He doesn't plead. He doesn't go on the news. He goes quiet. In his holding cell, he memorizes the names on the police report. Every detail, every timestamp, every signature. By the time his attorney arrives, Malik is ready. He gives her a single instruction. Get me David Pena. 2 days later, Malik sits in a quiet office, not a jail cell. Released on bail by a local judge who owed his lawyer a favor. David Pena, 63, retired FBI, walks in holding a thick notepad and a deeper frown. They don't waste time on pleasantries. I need you to dig, Malik says. Pena nods once. How deep? All the way through. David starts with the basics. Tom Grady's personnel file, badge number, commendations. On paper, it's clean enough, but the money trail is sloppy. Over the next 3 days, David pulls bank records. He finds casino withdrawals in Atlantic City. Large ones. Frequent. Traces deposits that don't match a cop's salary. Pinpoints ATM pulls near places loan sharks operate, 2 of whom were recently indicted. Then there's the big one. A redacted internal memo from a year back. A quiet investigation into missing evidence money from 2 drug busts. Grady's name was mentioned, but the case was dropped for lack of corroboration. David doesn't say it out loud, but he doesn't have to. Grady's drowning in debt, and Malik just became his lifeboat. Meanwhile, Malik requests a copy of the body cam footage from the night of the arrest. He files it formally through his lawyer. Waits 3 days. Then the department responds. There's been a technical error, a malfunction. The footage exists, but the key moment, the trunk search, is corrupted, missing several minutes. Malik reads the email twice, smiles thinly. Of course it is, but he has one more card to play. Back on that rural road, across from the highway shoulder, there's a small convenience store. Rundown, single gas pump, a dusty Pepsi sign hanging from the roof. Malik remembered it as they drove him away. His lawyer drives out there, talks to the clerk, an old man with nicotine-stained fingers and a permanent squint. She offers him $500 just to check the security cam. He says sure. They pop the tape in. It's grainy, distant, but clear. You see the Mercedes pull over. Grady walked to the trunk. Open it. Reach inside. You see him hesitate, then slip something into his jacket pocket before pulling the briefcase into view. Malik watches the footage 3 times. No sound, no angles, just proof. It's not much, but it's enough. He calls a number he hasn't used in 2 years. The governor picks up after the second ring. Malik, she says, cautious, I can't speak on an open line. I'm not here to beg, he replies. I just want 10 minutes. No cameras. No lawyers. Just you and me. Silence. Then, come to the back entrance. Midnight. Don't be late. The governor's office is dark at that hour. Only 2 aides remain, and they're told to wait outside. Malik walks in alone. No briefcase. No suit. Just a flash drive in his coat pocket. She sits behind her desk, arms crossed, expression unreadable. You've put me in a difficult position, she says. No, Malik answers. Your officer did that. He plugs the drive in, plays the footage, watches her eyes narrow. Her fingers drum the desk, stop, then curl into a fist. He lets the silence stretch. This was a setup, she finally says. He nods. And you know how this works. If I take it public, you'll survive. But your agenda won't. Your budget. Your initiatives. The optics are bad enough already. She sighs. So what do you want? Malik leans forward. I want you to help me burn this from the inside. Quietly. Legally. Permanently. I don't want revenge. I want accountability. She studies him. For the first time, her mask slips. You came here without a camera crew, without a press release. I came here as a man who's been humiliated, he replies, but not broken. And I still believe in fixing what's rotten. You and I both know how rare that is. She closes the laptop. All right, she says. You'll have what you need. But keep it clean. No press. No drama. Malik stands. No drama, he agrees. Just justice. He walks out of the office into the cold night, shoulders squared. It's not over. But now he's not playing defense. He's taking back the game. The room is quiet when Malik finishes. His documents are laid out across the governor's conference table, one folder at a time. Surveillance stills, financial records, police reports, the store footage, a printed email from the department about the corrupted body cam file. The final page shows Grady's casino receipts, overlapping perfectly with his arrest logs. Malik doesn't point at the pattern. He doesn't have to. It's all there. When he's done, he leans back in the chair and folds his hands. The governor doesn't speak for a long time. She looks at each item again, slowly, carefully. Then she takes off her glasses and sets them down. This doesn't stay internal, she says. The next day, Officer Tom Grady is called into a disciplinary hearing. He thinks it's a slap on the wrist, a temporary suspension while things blow over. Instead, he's met by 2 internal affairs officers and 1 U.S. Marshal. He's not suspended. He's arrested. News travels fast. By evening, every local station runs the story. Headlines shift overnight. Governor advisor cleared in framing scandal. Veteran officer caught planting evidence. Community leader turns the tables. The next morning, Malik walks into his office for the first time in 2 weeks. His team is waiting. Some are crying. Some are clapping. All are staring at him like he's someone else now. He doesn't give a speech. He picks up his briefcase, walks into the conference room, and gets back to work. That afternoon, he stands in front of cameras. A dozen microphones pointed at him. He wears the same calm, calculated look he always has. Except today, there's something sharper underneath. A reporter shouts, "Mr. Turner, were you surprised by the arrest?" Malik pauses. I wasn't surprised I was profiled, he says. I wasn't even surprised I was arrested. But I'm still stunned people ask why I wasn't angry. Let's that sit. I was furious. But I knew I had to play chess, not checkers. If I'd shouted, I would have been dismissed. If I'd fought back physically, I'd be in a different kind of cell. But I knew the truth would rot him from the inside. And I knew the system would protect itself until it couldn't. The press eats it up. That quote runs everywhere. Pinned, clipped, shared. Meanwhile, the investigation widens. A joint task force starts combing through Grady's old cases. They find inconsistencies, evidence that never made it to court, arrests made with no body cam footage. In one reopened file, a young man named Isaiah Mitchell had served 18 months for a narcotics charge based on cash that was never formally logged. 2 weeks later, Isaiah walks out of prison. His record is cleared. Grady's past is collapsing faster than anyone expected. A judge announces formal reviews of every case Grady worked on in the last 5 years. Legal experts call it unprecedented. Civil rights lawyers call it long overdue. At home, Malik watches the coverage from his living room. The TV volume is low. His phone buzzes with messages from supporters, from clients, from strangers. One text stands out. It's from David Pena. They're starting to fall in line. You played this perfectly. Malik doesn't respond. He just sets the phone down and walks outside. The sky is clear. It's been raining for days, but tonight it's still. Somewhere, Grady is in a holding cell, waiting to be arraigned. Malik doesn't feel relief. Not yet. He knows this isn't over. Not until the system changes, not just a man. But tonight, the first crack has formed. And for once, it didn't swallow the innocent. Tom Grady stands before the judge. The courtroom is packed, but silent. The charges are read aloud: fraud, tampering with evidence, violation of civil rights under color of law. He doesn't speak, doesn't look at anyone. His hands twitch slightly at his sides. The sentence: 5 years in federal prison. He blinks. That's it. No words, no apology, just the echo of the gavel. He's escorted out in cuffs. News stations flash images of him in a beige prison jumpsuit. The same outlets that once quoted his arrest now run exposés about the lies he upended. But the story doesn't stop with a conviction. Internal affairs begins sweeping through the department. Old files, case logs, reports with suspicious gaps. New policies are introduced. Mandatory third-party reviews, stricter chain of custody rules, revised body cam protocols. Several officers retire quietly. Others are reassigned. Still, it's not enough. Malik knows that. He's already taken the next step. 3 weeks after Grady's sentencing, Malik files paperwork for a nonprofit, Civic Guard, a civilian-led watchdog group aimed at investigating wrongful arrests and evidence manipulation. It starts with a small team: David Pena, 2 lawyers, 1 former journalist. They begin reviewing cold cases, interviewing families, digging where the system has buried the truth. Malik starts traveling, speaking at universities, panels, police reform conferences. He talks less about what happened to him and more about what could happen to anyone. Back home, his firm stabilizes. Some clients never came back. A few didn't survive the scandal. Reputations ruined, businesses lost. But the ones who stayed, they doubled down. They referred friends. They volunteered for Civic Guard. One offered office space. Another rewrote the nonprofit's bylaws pro bono. They didn't just believe in Malik's work. They believed in him. The governor holds a press conference 4 months after Grady's conviction. She stands at the podium. Beside her, Malik. The same calm, clean-cut presence. No anger. No gloating. Just quiet resolve. The governor clears her throat. What happened to Mr. Turner should never have happened. Not in this state. Not in this country. Today, on behalf of this administration, I apologize. And I commit to permanent change, not performative acts. The flash of cameras is deafening. Malik doesn't speak at that moment. He lets the governor finish. But when asked by a reporter afterward how he feels, he answers simply, "Apologies are good. Action is better. We're not done yet." That clip goes viral. By the end of the year, Malik is consulting with state legislators on new bills addressing transparency in policing. Civic Guard has 10 full-time staffers, 2 interns, a growing database of flagged incidents across the country. Meanwhile, in a medium-security federal prison 3 states away, Tom Grady watches Malik's interviews on the Rec Room TV. He never speaks during them, just watches. Sometimes other inmates nudge him, laughing, mocking. Sometimes they ignore him completely. His world has shrunk to concrete and steel and silence. No visitors, no friends, no more power. The man who once barked orders now folds laundry in the prison kitchen and counts the days. But Malik isn't counting days. He's planning years. He meets with high school students in Chicago, talks about credit, community reinvestment, and how to survive a traffic stop with your life and dignity intact. Not because it should be necessary, but because it is. One night, after a long day of meetings, Malik sits on his office balcony. The city glows below. He scrolls through an inbox full of thank you notes, press requests, and anonymous tips. He doesn't respond to most. Not yet. But he saves everyone. Some nights, he still thinks about that stretch of highway. The birds, the silence, the sirens, the briefcase. He kept it, the same one Grady tried to use to destroy him. It sits in a cabinet behind his desk, locked, untouched, not because he wants to forget, but because he'll never need to explain again who he is. The record speaks now, and for once it speaks the truth. He was educated. He was calm. He was innocent. And still on that roadside, he was treated like a criminal. Because in America, sometimes a suit and tie doesn't protect you if your skin is black. Malik Turner didn't raise his voice. He didn't run. He didn't beg. He let the system do what it does, and then held it accountable piece by piece. He didn't just clear his name. He changed the conversation. He showed that power doesn't always come from a badge or a bench. Sometimes it walks in with a leather briefcase, a sharp mind, and a binder full of evidence that can't be ignored. Some battles aren't fought with fists. Some battles are won with facts. And the kind of unshakable composure that comes from knowing who you are, even when the world tries to define you differently. Outside the courthouse, months after the last press conference, Malik walks alone. A group of teenagers, all black, all watching, falls silent as he passes. One of them nudges his friend and whispers, "That's him." The other nods slowly, his voice just above a breath. He made him listen. Malik doesn't stop. He just smiles and keeps walking. If this story moved you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and tell us what part stayed with you and why. If you believe stories like this matter, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Story Atelier, where real stories meet raw truth. We're just getting started.